Okay, I'm back for part 2. Definitely not recording right after I finished part 1. And, now, the North actually is going to... So now the South is on the defensive. They just finished their major offensive, and they're starting to send a bunch of troops to Salt Lake City and Denver because they know the North wants it. And the North actually, down here... This is a relatively tiny force, so they actually cut off Richmond and the rest of Virginia, and Virginia actually surrenders. So the North has definitely made progress. They've captured 2 states, but so has the South. So Denver and Salt Lake City, 2 crucial cities, interesting cities. Both of them very close to the other nation. They begin this push, and they send a bit more troops to Denver because it's the larger city, which means, and the North, after finishing its front in Virginia, is able to send some troops. So they send a bunch of troops. They want to take Salt Lake City first, so they begin to try to encircle the city, and they push on both sides. And then when they're about here, the troops in Salt Lake City are ordered to surrender, or are ordered to retreat. And then they retreat, and then the city falls to the city eventually falls to the North. The whole state doesn't quite surrender, but the northern part does, with most of the force gone. However, most of the force did manage to escape to guard to guard these key cities. By the way, this dot in San Fran refers to the whole Bay Area. So yeah, Salt Lake City's fallen. And Utah is ordered to not fall immediately, because if Utah falls, Vegas would be very exposed. So Utah, there's a front being held there. However, they do begin a push. This goes south of Denver, so they begin a push trying to go south, and they actually do fine. Most of the troops, they push into Denver and Colorado, and they actually they can encircle the city as well, and they take Denver. And with that, Colorado, they're able to push into this. By the way, the troops in Denver, most of them that fled Salt Lake City didn't go this way, they went this way. So there weren't many troops in Denver. However, this part of Colorado still, Colorado Springs, all these cities, they're put under siege, and they eventually fall. So let's just speed that up. Yeah, okay, Colorado falls. Yeah. Colorado falls, which is bad, but the North, or the South, has a new strategy. They hope to launch a major offensive and cut it off like this. If they can secure that, that would be huge, because that cuts off the 2 major centers. But in order to do that, they have to liberate Kentucky. So with most of their forces out of this area, they start pushing, they move them this way. And actually, instead of going up Kentucky, they try to, they cut off Kentucky and Virginia. So they cut it off like this. You can see that that's red, by the way. They cut off, they actually reach the border. And instead of stopping at the border, they launch an assault over here. They want to do that, but it kind of is successful. Southern Illinois is somewhat whatever. They kind of push in. They also push in here. And because the North isn't very ready for this, they eventually are able to do that. Now that might be incredible. Oh yeah, Cincinnati is right here. So this probably isn't so like, no. They push up to Cincinnati on both sides and put the city under siege. And it'll actually stay like that for a long time. And it's a major, they don't put the city under siege. They just, reach the city on both sides. But the city still has an escape route. And, Kentucky still doesn't surrender because you could still get to it. So actually, the North is, Cincinnati is ordered to hold on because, the force at Cincinnati holds on, and the city, Battle of Cincinnati, huge battle, and it actually rages on for a while, so we'll get to that later. The South also starts pushing into Kansas City, and they actually they retake the city. So it's looking really good for the South. At the moment, they almost took back Kentucky. However, Denver has almost fallen. But while that was happening, a tiny force kind of just took Idaho. They marched into Boise and just, took it. The rest of the state surrendered. Which doesn't look like much. I mean, it is Idaho. But, and then a force starts pushing into Wyoming in hopes of being able to kind of snake around and then cut off the Utah. So a force pushes into that. Montana as well also kind of just falls to the south. So now the South is looking really good. Now the North has a lot of people up here. So they really don't want to let this area be exposed. And they're playing very defensively. But now, they try to push, they finally start their push down the Mississippi. This would be very big because it would cut off this area from, the west. So they actually launch a huge offensive. They retake this, open up this route to Kentucky again, and then start their push down into Arkansas. Now, unlike what they did during the Civil War, oh, by the way, Memphis, they put the city of Memphis under siege, and then eventually surrenders. And Tennessee doesn't surrender because it still has Nashville and all that, but they did just lose a major city, which is pretty bad. So Arkansas, they think about pushing into Little Rock, which is about there, and they do a bit, but it's, Arkansas is pretty defended. Actually, no, it's not. Arkansas, they keep pushing, and they actually push down to the Louisiana border. Now, this is big because it's close, and a huge force is sent, not to go defend New Orleans, but a bit further up the river at Baton Rouge, about here, to defend, and a huge force is there. And because all of these forces retreat to take defensive positions, they go here, and the Battle of Baton Rouge, the stage is set. But before that could happen, the South makes one huge attempt. The South pushes down here. They capture Cheyenne, capture Yellowstone, and Wyoming surrenders. So, but most of the troops, actually, they don't surrender, they flee. So now the North, now Salt Lake City is almost surrounded, which is not good. If they could just push there, it could be surrounded, which would be bad. However, the North massively sends a lot of troops there, and they stop their assault on the Mississippi, but they keep it defended. And now the South, there really only is one highway that goes through. There really only is one highway that goes down here, and it can't go through any of this territory. So, they're almost cut off, which is not good. But the Battle of Cincinnati has started, and actually, the South pushes into Cincinnati, and they aim to encircle the city, which almost happens. However, they push up into Indiana, and in here, they stop. They don't get Dayton. Actually, they do get Dayton, and then they take the city, and the city surrenders. Now, this is a major defeat for the it's a major defeat for the North because they just lost a big city, and now one of their major now the rest of Ohio is exposed. Most of the troops, because they did put the city under siege and they did it very fast, most of the troops actually weren't able to escape, which left the rest of southern Ohio and Indiana exposed. So all this area, which I know, I don't care how developed it is, falls. As well as West Virginia, the whole state, it falls. But as West Virginia is falling, actually, Pennsylvania and Ohioan troops push into here to keep this area. Now that this is done, we have kind of a weird situation where the North, despite oh, by the way, this doesn't exist. Despite the North, they both pushed on kind of like opposite sides, and these troops are actually surrounded. They were able to take Cincinnati, but now they're surrounded and they're trapped. So the North takes advantage of that, and they realize that they're winning this war, and they push down here. Well, they're not necessarily winning, but they do push down here, and then they actually re-liberate the city, I know, and West Virginia. So, the South made a good attempt, but it didn't work. By the way, this is controlled by the South, Kansas City. And talking about Kansas City, the next main assault is towards St. Louis. Actually, no, it's not towards St. Louis. They're going for North Dakota. They try to push up, like, this area to cut off the Dakotas and Kansas. Actually, no, they try to push down, and they actually do push down. They sent a lot of troops to Salt Lake City to defend the city, or the North did. But Salt Lake City was actually rioting a lot, so they had to have a lot of troops to keep order there, so they didn't have a lot to defend, and the North was actually able to just, and the South was able to liberate Salt Lake City and Utah. So, Utah is liberated for the South, and that's where we're going to end this video. Part 3 will come another day.